Welcome to another edition of the channel's Mailbag. So what is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is the part of the channel that you guys actually control. It's based on comments, questions, general feedback that you guys leave either on the YouTube channel, the website, or through one of my social media feeds. Mailbag contains what I think the answer is, what I think my view of the comment is, or sometimes, I just throw it out to the wider audience and say, what do you guys think? That's what Mailbag is. So let's get in to the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. This one comes from Howdy. In response to D-70 Assessment Restoration Part 1, a video I did in November 2024. And Howdy writes, I'm thinking of changing the display as it's faded. Is this an easy task? Also, do you think the 76 keys from the JV90 or XP80 would fit the D-70, as they don't seem to have the red glue issue? Thanks for posting these vids. So, in order to answer the questions, kind of depends on how you approach the project, I guess. You access the internals of the D-70 by basically turning the synth over, taking the back off, and then you basically remove the boards to drill down into the synthesizer. To get to the display, of course, which is the last set of boards in the synthesizer, you've got to basically remove the motherboard and a number of other boards to allow you to get down to that particular area to actually liberate the display. So it's not a difficult task, it's a methodical task is the way I put it, and you probably need to put the thing on the bench and work through it. It'll take you several hours. Secondly, you can buy the display in two forms. Form 1 is a bare display from either Alibaba or a specialist display company. Form 2 is you seek someone out and you buy the display from them, and they've already undertaken all the wiring for you. So effectively they understand the pinouts, and they put the ribbon cables on with the relevant pinouts, all made. Any resistors and jumpers that have to be made, they've all been done for you. It's literally a plug and play. If you go down the route 1 of buying it from Alibaba or something similar, you will need to figure out all the pinouts. You need to then desolder the old display, solder in the new display, and while this tends to be cheaper to the tune of about $40, sorry, to the tune of it only costs you $40 for the display, there's a lot of you time in there trying to figure it out. And if you're comfortable with that sort of stuff, that's definitely a route you might consider going down. The second route is obviously to buy from a supplier where they've done all the hard graft for you, and it becomes a plug and play exercise. You just remove the old display from the chassis, unplug the connectors, put the new display in the chassis, plug in all the connectors, and it should just work. The difference in price, somewhere around $100 to $120. So you're going to turn around and say, well, it's $40. I'm going to save myself $80. But then you've got to work out, does $80 equate to the amount of time you've got to put in to do all the figuring out, soldering, testing, etc., etc. Now, in my way, what I did was I kind of looked at it from that point of view and said, well, actually, you know what? It's worth spending the $80. Next comment question comes from HT6000 in response to the Roland R-8 assessment of the project Restoration Part 1, which was posted to the channel in May 2025. And HT writes, probably 68 samples, but anyhow, I have an R8 and it intimidates me quite a bit. I've been using the R5 more often, not sure why. Really, perhaps I like the overall size aesthetics of the R5 better. I tried to move from the R5 to the R8 and it's been quite a challenge for me. By the way, I find it impossible to find an R8 in nice condition. Literally all of them are run down. On the other hand, it's not difficult to find a pristine R5. I find it curious that other people have found R8s more useful, apparently, than the R5. This thing is one of those instruments that can be daunting. I struggled Personally, when I got the Isla S2400, I struggled with that for similar reasons. But some things, it doesn't matter how much you persevere with it, it just doesn't work. And HD wrote back and said, I guess it's a little bit about how technical you are. And he's probably quite right there. I used an R-8M as an upgrade for the SC88 sound canvas back in the days for better sounds. We were playing a lot of duo jobs, me and a guitarist stroke drummer, and I used both the R-8M, the Alsys HR16, HR16B, and the D-Drum 2 Brain as a drum sounds for the drums. We were pretty upbeat on equipment for a while. At the time, the D-Drums was the first electronic drum suite where you could actually do a drum roll on a snare without it sounding like a machine gun going off. Was a long time before Roland introduced their V-Drum series. The D-Drum system was used with real cymbals, as I hadn't figured out how to make the decent cymbal trigger at the time. But snares, kicks, toms sounded pretty amazing for the time. I think it's a pretty rare to find D-Drum system these days. There's a company that brought D-Drums, named from Clavier Kind, did a zero development and only produces cheap beginner E-Drum sets that are not even compatible to what D-Drum used to be. I love the humorized function of the R-8M had for making subtle variations in especially things like the hi-hat and cymbal parts to make it sound less monotone. Most of the sounds in the R-8M were multi-samples, so it blended two different types of samples, kind of like the D-Drum module did, which was why it sounded so great. Was the first E-Drums that was a real skin with a foam underneath with the multi-triggers in the centre and edge of the pads. I remember D-Drum was still ahead of Roland when V-Drums was introduced sound-wise, but Roland added the cymbal triggers, and then Clavier sold off the D-Drum name and it died. Now, many years back, I had a friend who played the Roland or basically used the Roland 8M to play sounds triggered by his cheap digital drum kit. But for the life of me, I can't remember what the make of his cheap kit was. It's going back quite a few years. The sounds of the kit were dreadful, but it redeemed itself in the fact that the pads were well made, well specified in terms of how it captured and transmitted MIDI. But thanks for your reminiscence of the D-Drum system. And not being a drummer myself, it's a system I really haven't come across.